people from around the world are looking at basically the United States in horror as we continue to slide further and further into right-wing fascism. In fact, you have one Irish member of the European Parliament who recently went viral for this rant asking if the United States is even actually a democracy.
Democracy? Well, let's have a look at it. It costs $2 billion to become president. They're 25% of the total prisoners in the world. They spend over $800 billion a year on arms, which is more than most of the world put together. They've been at war for 250 years since their state was formed 275 years ago. But they can't afford universal health care. They can't afford the 1.7 trillion debt forgiveness for students. They can't afford a programme for the 17 million children that go to bed hungry. Is this a functioning democracy? What's your idea of a democracy? Bernie Sanders wasn't even allowed to win the nomination for the Democrats. The Americans couldn't spell democracy.
I mean, I don't really see a whole lot wrong with what he just said. Now, look, that's Mick Wallace. He's a lefty politician in Parliament. And look, there are some positions that he have that I don't necessarily agree with him on, but everything he said there was accurate, 100%. He's very spot on. Yeah, we spend all this money in our country on BS wars, on corporate tax cuts, money for the rich. We don't have Medicare for all. We don't have universal health care. We have mass shootings all the time. And the victims of those mass shootings, by the way, don't even get their medical bills taken care of. They have to pay their own medical bills for getting shot in the face. Broken country, absolutely broken country. No, the United States is not a functional democracy. In fact, the majority of Americans support abortion rights, support Roe, gun control measures, common sense gun control. They believe the EPA should be able to regulate carbon emissions, okay, to protect the environment. They think that corporations have too much influence in our politics, and they absolutely do. They support higher wages for working people. Again, universal health care. And yet, we have a government that doesn't do any of that. We have the United States Supreme Court, which is a rogue court that's recently gutted the right to women's bodily autonomy. And not just women, of course, but you also have trans men, anyone with a uterus. They've weakened the separation of church and state. They have loosened laws around guns. They have loosened laws around campaign finance. One of the decisions allowed Ted Cruz to basically loan his campaign money and then have his campaign basically pay him back. And then you also have the Supreme Court gutting the EPA's ability to regulate not just carbon emissions, but also for government agencies to regulate almost anything. Corporate rule. We also have a government that gave trillions of dollars in tax cuts for the rich under Donald Trump. And of course, under Biden, we had the American Rescue Plan, which also gave billions of dollars in states with very, very little oversight that they are now using to cut taxes for corporations. And so, look, that bipartisan infrastructure bill as well that Biden is touting was largely a giveaway to private corporations. So everything that we've done really has benefited the wealthy. We don't have a democracy in this country. We have corporate rule. That's what we're living under, corporate rule. At the same time, President Biden and the Democrats are constantly giving money to the military, as well as money to Ukraine. He's making sure that we have austerity in this country. And yet, at the same time, you also have the Republicans on the other side that are blaming inflation on stimulus checks, while these corporations that are jacking up their prices are blaming inflation on those stimmy checks while making record profits. That's what's going on here. That's what's going on. So now, of course, what do we do about it? What are we doing about it? Well, the starter is, hey, let's get rid of incumbent politicians. They don't serve us. They serve their corporate masters. if you enforce and serve corporations and do corporate rule, we should replace you. Gone. Get out. And by the way, progressives, if you're not helping, you also need to get out. If you say you're progressive, then be progressive and actually fight. And if you don't, we're going to replace you with a progressive. And what we also need to do is move beyond electoral politics. That is part of it. And electoral politics is important. Everybody should go out and vote, obviously, but that should not be the focus. What we need to do is to organize labor. I think the only chance the United States has is a revitalized labor movement. We need working class people to get together and form unions, strengthen labor, and really show the corporations, the corporate elite, that together we are strong and that we demand things like universal health care, higher wages, childcare, and benefits. We deserve these things. We also need to organize our own communities and start serving our own communities, creating mutual aid networks. We need to create protest groups, put pressure on politicians, as well as supporting local sustainable agriculture practices. There's a lot of different things that we can do. Constructive things. And I want to be constructive here. But we need to stop relying on Democrats or any politician to save us. And again, this is not an endorsement of Republicans. Republicans are fascists. They're looking to end what little democracy we have left. And look, what they did is they had a long game for destroying Roe. They fought for 50 years to overturn reproductive rights. So guess what? We need to take a page out of their book and start planning for the long term and fight, even if it takes decades to get our rights back, as well as, not just restored, but expanded, codified into law. We need a progressive president. Joe Biden is not the person for the moment. We need to do all of that stuff. This is not a simple solution to take back our country from the fascists. But that's the situation that we find ourselves in, and we can either rise to the moment or fall into a very dark place. If we actually do want to be a real democracy, we're going to actually have to work for it. And that's going to be hard. But again, it's going to get us far, far more than just showing up one day every couple of years, checking a box, and then doing whatever else.